Morning guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video on the engine swap on the Range Rover Sport. Obviously part one was removing the cab from the chassis. Part two that we're going to be doing today is removing that engine from that chassis and getting it on the rack, the red rack there, side by side with the other engine, and we'll make a start on swapping the bits over. So let's get involved. So as you can see there guys, we're really getting involved with getting everything stripped out. Chris was in here removing the starter motor and he said he remembered from last time it was absolute hell to get it out. It is literally down this tight little space and it was just preventing us from moving on and doing anything. But we are now down to trying to get the engine mounts undone. All the bell housing bolts for the gearbox are now removed. We got the exhaust removed, the crossover hose, you saw that on a time lapse, but you can see we've removed everything. And our plan is to actually, once we get the high-ab on there and get the whole thing lifted up, we're then going to prop up the gearbox to keep the torque converter in the box, prevent it losing its oil. But yeah, we've been right round and we're pretty much there with most of it. We're not going to actually remove the radiator, but as you can see, I've got it hanging there and I've got it quite far forward. It's got the gearbox cooler on there, so I want to try and prevent removing that if we can. But if we have to, then we have to do it. But yeah, really cracking on, and it really hasn't taken too long, but it is hard work. It's very fiddly, very tight in there, and everything is very, very awkward to get to. I mean, how anybody does any work on these engines while they're in these vehicles is absolutely beyond me. It must be very, very difficult. That's how small that hole is, guys, where the starter motor goes, and then you've got to stick your hands in there after to undo the bolts on the torque converter. So I'll be back shortly. Just bringing in the high-ab, guys. We're going to do exactly the same as how we lifted that engine out of that Jag. We're going to use his high-ab to lift it right out, and then obviously that will help us get it on that rack shortly. I'll chuck the phone in the stand on time lapse and hopefully you can see some of it. There you go guys, it looked pretty quick on the time lapse, I must admit, but that has taken quite a while. Obviously we was edging it up a little tiny bit at a time, just double checking that nothing was left on there. Obviously we did unplug it, and it's lucky where you just edge it up ever so slightly. This little earth here I hadn't actually undone from the body, so it is really good to just lift it up a little tiny bit at a time and just ensure that everything is disconnected. It only has two engine mounts holding it in, which is this one this side, and then you've got that one down the bottom there, that side. As you can see, just quickly, I will point that out, the sump, how far back it sits on that engine and how far forward it sits on that engine. So it's actually the sump and the whole sump holder, the pickup, everything's got to be swapped out on this. And this looks a lot bigger on the front end than that one does. I know there's quite a lot of pipes on it, but even the power steering pump, you can see there, the air con pump, they're actually twice the size on the Sport as they are on the Jag. So they do look completely different. There's a lot to change over there. The basis of the engine is identical, but obviously all the ancillaries and everything like that are different. This has got one huge turbo on it. That has two small turbos. You can see one just there and there's one on the other side. A couple of people did say in the comments, I can't wait to see you fit this twin turbo engine. Sorry guys, I must have said something that was a little bit misleading there, because we've got no intention of fitting a twin turbo engine in this car. They're two little turbos, that's one massive turbo, so that probably equates to the same as both of those anyway, and that would just be a whole nother complete headache. So the next step is obviously getting this fitted to the engine machine and start down the strip down process. And me and Chris have just been having a chat while we're getting it out, and what we're going to do first of all is actually strip everything off of this engine. So all the ancillaries, the oil, sump, everything like that, and then we'll slowly but surely swap everything from this engine to the new one, and then eventually put it in. It was quite difficult getting it out of that gap. We've had to prop up the gearbox, obviously the torque converter's in there, we want the torque converter to stay in there, but Chris just said it's probably a bit of a better plan. We don't know, we'll see how we go. We'll possibly remove this gearbox, marry it up to the engine, and then fit them as a pair, because that was very, very awkward getting that out of that gap. But you know, I am going to be taking the chassis outside, giving it a clean, and I'm going to get rid of all the years of grime and dirt on here. So we may find it a little bit easier getting it in there, and we'll be able to see a little bit more. So let's we're going to now move on to start stripping down the new engine and swapping everything over to the old end. All the bits off of the old engine, getting them fitted onto the new engine. Guys, it was quite a lot of shifting around. Obviously we've only got one engine stand and we need to sit them side by side to actually swap everything over, but we've now got the new engine on the stand. I've just took this sump nut out, we're draining all the fluids down on it. We've got it on this engine stand. For those of you that haven't seen one before, this is quite an old one, but it's perfect, it does the job. We stick a bar in here, pull the pin, and we can rotate this engine to any part we want. And obviously we do need that sump and the carrier removed, so it's handy that we've got it on the stand. We can wheel it around anywhere it needs to go, and we can spin it round into any angle that we want it to go. So we are just going to concentrate today on getting this engine stripped and leave on it what needs to be left on it, but we're going to remove everything that needs to come off. And then it'll be another video where we'll be removing things from this engine and just purely swapping them over. As you would have seen in the previous video when we did this engine, we stuck the up-rated oil pump on this engine. We are going to be going ahead and doing that to this engine, putting a new timing belt and tensioners on it, new diesel pump belt, and giving it a full overhaul before it goes back in that car. So we're going to let that drain down for a little while, and then I'll probably be moving outside with the cab and giving the car. Sorry guys, my missus walked in there with coffee and donuts, so unfortunately I had to cut the video short. It is lunchtime. Yeah, I said the cab just in the end of that video. What I meant was the chassis. I'll probably be rolling that outside in a moment, jet washing that off. I will time lapse it so that you can all see me doing that. I know quite a lot of you is disappointed that I never done it last time. That's pretty much drained down now, the oil. So we can start cracking on getting that all stripped off. Guys, I'm probably not going to show us stripping this engine. It's all normal stuff, removing the aircon pump, the starter motor, alternator, etc, etc. We will be leaving these diesel injectors in there. We'll also be leaving the diesel pump on there. All of those are the same and they're not coded to the car. So there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for us to change that. I believe, looking at them, the EGR valves look even quite similar, but I will have to double check that. But those are the EGR valves there, guys. So I'm going to get this, I will put it on time lapse when I'm outside cleaning off the chassis, but that will be probably this video, and then we'll move on to the next video of putting the engine back in. Change of plan there, guys. We can jet wash the chassis at any point in any of the videos, and it is tipping it down outside, so we've had to take Chris's truck out. As you know, this project, we do not want it getting wet, and you can see a little bit, it started raining, so we had to get Chris's truck out as quick as we could and get this back inside, because it's now been in here for a couple of weeks, and we are trying to dry it out as much as we can before we start, without letting too much on, the strip down process of that Range Rover. So what I've decided to do, chuck it back in the stand, the phone, and we're time lapse. We're going to completely strip this engine down as far as we need to go with it, and then I'll come back with an update after we've got it all stripped down. Right, back guys, quite a bit of time lapse there, you could see what we was doing, and I thought I'd cut in at this point and just show you what it is that we're actually doing. The engine is all completely stripped. We have found a broken part on this engine. Actually, I'll try and get round there and show you why it's on the stand on its side. If you can see this little valve here, Chris noticed some oil up here, and he said earlier there's quite a lot of oil on the engine now. And that little valve is actually broken out of the rocker box cover. So when the engine's been running, it's just been chuffing a little bit of oil out. So we are going to have to swap this rocker box cover for one of ours. But this is the main part that we're going to need to remove. Obviously, this sump is no good for our car. This oil pickup is completely different for our car, and so is this section here that holds the sump and the oil pickup. So this here, you can see there's loads of 10 mils. We're going to be removing that, and then obviously moving on to our engine and getting our one of those off. That's not going to be today, Chris, is it? Because we need a new gasket. Right. So today we're probably going to remove this. We're then going to pick our engine back up, remove our sump and carrier, and then we'll put our sump and carrier over here, but we'll temporarily put this one back on our old engine so that it can sit on the floor side by side with this one in the next video, when we're going to be swapping everything over onto this new engine. Obviously fitting an uprated oil pump you see us do last time, which is here. Sorry guys, this is a bit awkward because it is on its side. So yeah, we'll be changing the oil pump, the bearings, the tensioner, and a whole new cam belt. But I thought I'd cut in now. I am going to come off camera just while Chris undoes all them bolts, because it's really noisy on camera. I'll come straight back when he's pulling that off. Just got those bolts out, guys, and we're getting ready to pull that last bit off. It's a bit stuck. And there you go. That's everything we needed removed from this engine that's different for a Jaguar. Obviously the oil pickup's in the bottom of there, Chris, isn't it? Yeah. There's the oil pickup there, guys, which goes in the bottom of there. And on the Sport, obviously on the Sport it is different. It's got a completely different setup. But you can see it splits here. There is a gasket on here that we need to get. We need to get a new one of these gaskets before we fit our bottom end on there. But it does all look really nice and clean in there, as clean as it can do. And we'll be getting that gasket on Monday, fitting that, and then fitting the bottom of our engine on there, our sump, oil pickup, etc. And then we'll start the process of rebuilding this engine with all of the ancillaries off of our engine. So that's as far as we got so far. We are gonna, like I said earlier, we're gonna lift that engine up now, get the sump off of it, all the housing and oil pickup that we do need, and temporarily actually just drop this one on that engine so it doesn't leak oil out everywhere. But that is kind of nice and flat, so we can put it on that engine and have that engine sitting flat on the floor side by side with this one, so that we can rebuild it. That will be the end of this video on this series, guys. We've got the sump and housing off of the S-Type Jaguar bolted onto our original engine. It's now down low, it's sitting nice and flat, and we can start undoing things and swapping them over onto our new engine as soon as we get the new gaskets. So this is our original pan and sump. We can't put these back on this engine until we've got those gaskets, new cam belt, etc, etc. So that is as far as we can go today with the video until we get the gaskets on Monday, and then we'll be cracking on rebuilding this engine, hopefully getting it all back up together in one day and sitting back in the car, hopefully bolted up. Like I said, that will be the end of today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, please do give it a thumbs up. It really does help the channel grow. Also, it'd be really nice if you could share the videos and get them out there. We really would appreciate it. If you haven't followed us on Instagram for some little sneak peeks during the day of what we're up to, it's Salvage Rebuilds. Thank you very much to everyone that's recently purchased the merchandise. We really do appreciate it, and it really does help support the channel. There'll be a link for that in the description. Once again, thank you very much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, and we'll see you in the next one.